accept the 30%, cut on their salaries. Unfortunately, the minority in Parliament has resisted that. I'll take you through the 12 cost-cutting measures, announced by the finance minister. But before I come to the minority's position on the press conference held by the finance minister, let's listen to the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, on the measures put in place to, rescue the economy from the hardship we're going through currently. Let's listen. We'll be right back.
So, expenditure cutting measures. Discretionary spending is to be further cut 10%. The Ministry of Finance is currently meeting with MDAs to review their spending plans for the rest of the 3 quarters to achieve the discretionary expenditure cuts. 2, these times call for very efficient use of energy resources. In line with this, there will be a 50% cut in fuel coupon allocations for all political appointees and heads of government institutions, including SOEs, effective 1st February 2022. With immediate effect, government has imposed a complete moratorium on the purchase of imported vehicles for the rest of the year. This will affect all new orders, especially four-wheel drives. We will ensure that the overall effect is to reduce total vehicle purchases by the public sector by at least 50% for the period. Again, with immediate effect, government has imposed a moratorium on all foreign travels except pre-approved critical statutory travels. 5, government will conclude on ongoing measures to eliminate ghost workers from the government payroll by end December 2022. Government will conclude the renegotiations of the energy sector IPP's capacity charges by end of Q3 2022 to further reduce excess capacity payments by 20% to generate a total savings of 1.5 billion Ghana cedis. We will impose a moratorium on establishment of new public sector institutions by end of April 2022, prioritize ongoing public projects over new projects. This is to enhance the efficient use of limited public funds over the period by finishing ongoing or stalled but approved projects. Reduce expenditure on all meetings and conferences by 50% effective immediately. Pursue a comprehensive reprofiling strategies to reduce the interest expense burden on the fiscal, and liaise with organized labor and employers association to implement with immediate effect the measures captured in the Kwao Declaration of the 2022 National Labour Conference, including reforms towards addressing salary inequities, inequalities, example Article 71, office holders. The weak link between pay to productivity.
That was the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, addressing the media. Of course, you've listened to him and the measures they have put in place, of course, the packages to make sure that we rescue the country from the economic quagmire we have found ourselves as a people. However, the minority in Parliament thinks otherwise. They say the Finance Minister has lost touch with the realities of the economy. Let's listen to the minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, addressing the media right after the press conference. We'll be right.
Arguably, after listening to the Minister for Finance and his responses and his proposals, whilst he is talking about expenditure cut, he also insisted that they are going to spend on growth areas and social spending. That can only be a contradiction. Our immediate response to the Honorable Minister of Finance is to state emphatically and unequivocally that he's lost touch with reality. He is not in tune with the state of the Ghanaian economy. Our economy today is one that reflects nothing less than a cost of living crisis and a cost of doing business crisis, both for citizens and for businesses who are unable to cope with the measures so announced by the Honorable Minister for Finance. We do not find his proposed measures adequate enough? We need...
You're still watching Hot News, and if you're watching us on Facebook, please share the Facebook Live for other people to also watch tonight's edition of the program. But the minority in Parliament further asked the Finance Minister to provide clarity on the amount of expenditure cut. Let's listen to them.
These measures does not respond to a country which is debt distress. Our debt is simply not sustainable. We are told that an additional 45 billion have been added to our interest payment for the first quarter of this year. Where is he going to raise that money, even with an expenditure cut of about 31 billion, when he already had a deficit of not less than 6.9 billion? He must come properly. On the matter of foreign exchange, he was silent on it. All we heard is that some 2 billion cedis will be brought, $2 billion US dollars will be brought in. That is not enough. We need to have a national conversation on how to increase and expand our exports and reduce imports and stop these knee-jerk responses to exchange rate falls. When the chairman of the economic management team, Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, said that he has the key to arrest the depreciation of the dollar, he probably thought that it was as easy as stopping a trotro from Wulugu to Savulugu. It was as easy to stop depreciation of the cedi. He thought it was as easy as stopping a trotro from Wulugu to Savulugu just on the roadside. These are not easy measures. So I thank you very much. The ranking member and deputy ranking will respond appropriately to the text. But we do not find the measures adequate enough to deal with a country which is in debt distress. We do not find the measures enough, which is increasing the cost of doing business for Ghanaian businesses, in particular importers who rely on Forex to be able to do their business. So his responses is woefully inadequate for an economy which they have inflicted a rising cost of living and rising cost of doing business.
That was the minority leader, Haruna Idrisu. Of course, they are asking the finance minister to provide clarity on the amount of expenditure cut. But my question is, if the minority in Parliament is kicking against, 30% pay cut, why then would you demand from the finance minister, how much we are likely to accrue from, the expenditure cut, especially, the ministers who have been asked to, cut their pay by 30% and all of that. But I've been joined in the studio. Let me also tell you that we are looking at the minority's position on the press conference held by the finance minister announcing packages to rescue the economy from the economic situation that we are in currently. And I've been joined in the studio by Member of Parliament for Boem constituency, Honorable Kofi Adams. Honorable, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, good evening.
It's been a while on this platform.
Yeah.
How's the constituency?
Well, it's well.
Right. Now, let's move straight to business. Minority, it looks as if you are not too happy with the packages announced by the finance minister in terms of rescuing this country or the economy from the economic situation we are in. What are your issues?
Well, let me first greet the viewers and listeners on other platforms. But to ask whether you are happy. Is it the minority that is not happy? Or are you happy? As seated here. As a Ghanaian, ask yourself, working from home coming here, were you happy? How did you even get here? You thank God that you are able to arrive here safely, because I'm sure starting your journey coming here, you will be thinking about where the next meal is going to come from, where the next opportunity is going to come from. That don't even exist. Right. So it is not about minority. It's about the situation of hopelessness that exists in the country.
I see.
So I don't even want it being put as minority. We are only reflecting the views of Ghanaians. That if the leaders are so comfortable and they don't feel what it is that the ordinary person feels, that the average Ghanaian feels, we must let it drum home to them using the medium that we are given, including this one. But It is not the minority, but it is what it is that is on the ground that we are communicating to those who are governing us. That please come down from the elephant. If you are riding on the elephant and therefore you don't feel what it is that is on the ground, well, we can communicate to you if it is not possible for you to ride down until the time is due for you to come down. They may be listening to us, or come down and come and have a feel. So that's all we are trying to tell the minister. And we don't want to hear excuses. We don't want to hear excuses. We cannot take excuses from a party and a government that has been in place for almost 6 years. Can you continue giving excuses after 6 years?
Are they giving excuses?
But what are they telling you? They are giving excuses. Every day you hear, if it is not COVID, then now they have found a new one. It's Russia that has invaded Ukraine.
I see.
If it is not COVID, then it's Russia invading Ukraine. Why? That one too, what has it got to do with how you are managing your situation and affairs here? Look, even during the COVID period, and before COVID and the rest, fuel was being smuggled from Ghana to our neighboring countries. It was a major problem for us. Today is the reverse. Right? Did COVID only select Ghana to affect? How many people even died of COVID?
But you cannot run away from the ravages of the COVID-19.
I am saying that, but
pandemic.
did COVID affect only Ghana?
Not at all.
So why is it the case that Togo, that used to receive fuel from Ghana through smuggling, today is the reverse? That fuel in Ghana today is more expensive than Togo. Fuel is more expensive than Togo. How were they able to manage their economy better than us?
Are you being fair to Ghana?
I'm saying that if you want to use COVID as an excuse, Ghana was not the only country that was affected by COVID. Sometimes when you hear them and they miraculously want to give you example of a country that is not doing well, then they will go far off your zone. Why? We find ourselves in a zone we call West African zone.
Right.
So if you want to give an example of a country where there are difficulties, you don't take me to SADC. And then you go and be mentioning, oh, Zimbabwe is this, and so on and so on. That's not an economy we should be comparing ourselves with. Let's compare ourselves with our fellow compatriots even within the West African zone. Even Burkina, that has been ravaged for most part of the year, from last year through this year, part of the country has been controlled by rebels.
Right.
Even they. And so when you have messed up, you have created a situation, and we were warning you. It's not like we didn't want this government. It's not like we didn't want the government.
What specifically did they do? What situation did they create?
If you have a situation where a president got elected and he feels like I have arrived and I'm sharing positions like the way Toffees are shared at marriage ceremony, Auri, then you go there and you are sharing it. And they warn you and you say you are in a hurry. And so you needed 126 ministers to function. And now today you have spent all the money on this 126. Then it dawned on you that, hey, no, that's not how it is. Then let me try and reduce. Why did he reduce from 126 to 80 something? He claimed he was in a hurry to solve. Has he solved the problem? Has he finished solving the problem? Are we not in a worse situation now? So is it not even today, if those numbers would have solved the problem, is it not today that we need those numbers? So it should tell you that he wasted, what efficiency? Did you listen to the president, the reason why he did not return some appointees? He said if you are an MP and you lost your position and you were an appointee, I'm not returning you. It wasn't based on whether you were performing well or not. So for him, it's about partisanship. It's not about the performance. It's not like he reviewed the real performance of his appointees.
Right.
The yardstick was that if you were an appointee and you were MP and you lost your seat, you are not coming back. So is this the government that analyzes performance and analyze the effectiveness of leaders before either appointing or not appointing them again? No. They wasted our time. They wasted our resources. They borrowed. And today you have had to pay huge interest They saw a space, a very good space that has been created by the previous administration led by John Dramani Mahama. So they came and saw, oh, I bet these people, so all these things was there and they were not, so they were just going, oh, Euro bonds, they were taking it left, right, center. Now today, look at where we find ourselves. That you have had your interest service alone is so huge that you have to go and borrow to come and even pay interest on monies that you have borrowed, which you did not invest in any serious ventures.
I see. As
your predecessor administration did. That for which today, about 2-3 weeks ago, the majority chief whip, Honorable Anodom, made a statement in relation to how Ghana Gas Company that the NDC established in Atuabo has been of huge benefit to this country, and that if we have had stability even in terms of electricity supply and the rest, then we owe it to Ghana Gas. Who established Ghana Gas? If this government had done something similar in any other area, if maybe they had taken the trouble to even increase the cocoa that we process, as we did in other areas, like today we would not have been talking the way we are talking. When they came to power, out of the initiative of the previous administration, and things were working very well, the vice president said he had arrested the dollar, locked it, and that he handed over the key to the IGP. He was celebrating economic management team. So a team that did so well in less than 100 days and were able to arrest the dollar and lock it. Then 6 years, when you have had enough time, you can't arrest, you can't even spot the dollar, let alone even arrest it. You can't spot it and talk of arrest. That's the situation we find.
You talked about government borrowing. Government says they have borrowed to construct roads.
Which
They're
road?
building hospitals.
Which road did they borrow?
111 hospitals are underway and all of that. They're building schools. They are
expanding.
They have policies, flagship policies. They have invested in. Have you seen those things?
I'm sure. I'm happy you are reciting all those things. But have you seen them? You are the ones who move around with cameras to capture things. At least me, I don't move with the camera. I should be answering you whether you have seen any of those hospitals. The one we see at La, that was existing, that they pulled down. Even that one, they have not been able to do it. Many that have started, like the Kumewu and other areas, that have reached various stages that by now should have been completed, and the rest that have remained there. The ones they cut short, like the Shama one and the rest, that have tend to be a forest. Recently, they sent one bulldozer to a site at Ila that they were going to now build their hospital. The people, they said, look, even this house, they were pointing to a house near the hospital that existed there. When they were coming to construct the house, the machinery that was brought there, you could see that real work is going to happen. That you don't bring one machine and come and tell us that you are coming to construct the hospital. And when the person who was interviewed there, they claim was a foreman, or even how to express himself, he couldn't even express himself. You are coming to construct a hospital, and the foreman for the hospital project cannot even express himself. You want us to believe you?
That's one out of the many flagship policies.
I am telling you that you mentioned 111 hospitals.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, even the ones that existed that were pulled down, there is trouble.
What about the
finance minister? Well, you know the one who played finance minister's voice before.
Of course I did. Yeah.
Did he not say that they are not going to introduce new projects? They rather will focus on those that are ongoing and have reached some stages. Which district have the 111? Where is it happening? The president is saying, I'm going to complete. The finance minister is saying, we are not going to do new projects. Who should we be listening to?
Maybe they've started.
They've started. Where have they started?
They said they are under various stages of completion.
Which stage? And where? So, you talked about, you see, you mentioned
but apart from
free SHS.
Yes, free SHS, one district, one factory.
You see, free SHS,
digitization and digitalization and all of that.
I will not sit here and tell you that every Ghanaian can afford to pay for his fees.
Right.
I'll be deceiving you if I say so.
Very well.
Because right from independence and even before independence, post-independence, all the way through, we have had Ghanaians who, for one reason or the other, cannot pay for their education.
Right.
And they are so brilliant and they can contribute to the development of this country when
Very
given that opportunity. Some of the greatest professors, medical doctors, engineers, musicians, and what have you that we've had in this country have come from such backgrounds that needed help to be able to complete their education. So it is good to introduce systems that support those persons. But when you have introduced an educational policy that almost every serious expert in education is not giving it any plaudits, it should tell you that there's something wrong. Just give me one name who is an expert in the area of education that has said positive things about free SHS without saying that no, it needs to be reviewed. Even apart from paid speakers of the government and party.
Right.
Some persons, even including the finance minister, at least for this one, he spoke about it. That he doesn't see why they will introduce a policy that he, as a finance minister, will pack the things of his son or the daughter, drop her off at Achimota school, and drive out and say free SHS. That is unconscionable. And that is exactly what we've been telling them. That was why a reasonable government that knows the resources available to the state and needs to develop every part and needs to keep education going said, we're building infrastructure to make sure that one, the community schools, the day schools, and at the time we started, all these students were made to enjoy free education.
Right.
And over 150,000 scholarships in various forms have been given to also boarders. And government intention was to continue to identify these persons and make sure that those who can pay. Why should my son, as an MP, my son will pack his things, pack his chobox, pack his trunk, and report to a school and say that I'm driving out, I'm not going to pay anything? It doesn't make sense. It's possible to be able to identify those who must pay and would have to pay, and those who would have to be supported. That is what is done everywhere.
I see.
You don't say that because you think that they are hungry people, so when you are cooking, you are going to cook for everybody. There are some people who will not come and eat the food. Even when we were in school, where dining was compulsory, in secondary school those days, that it's compulsory for you even to go to dining. We have some students who, they will come and just sit there and look at the food and go away.
Right.
So you, as a government, you need to think. You need to think through. And I'm not surprised that because they are not thinking, you have to introduce e-levy in the form that they are introducing.
Well, I'm coming to that. Because,
yeah, well, surely we'll come to that. So
right.
You've talked about, when you were doing your intro, you said, oh, minority is not against their pay cut. They have to cut their pay because so much is
But they have suggested to the legislature
and I'm saying that so much
to also consider same.
No, the legislature is not considering any such.
Why are you not considering that?
Because we have
that will help government.
We didn't contribute to creating the mess. Government created the mess and they must fix it. You don't create your mess and then ask somebody else to come and wipe you
under your watch. Under the ex-president John Dramani Mahama's watch, there was a similar pay cut.
You don't mess yourself up and ask somebody else to come and clean.
Did you mess the economy up under former President John Dramani
Mahama? That's why we didn't call them to at the legislature to come and contribute to any pay cut. That's why they were not called to come and contribute to any pay cut, and they did not contribute same. But they called that system then as incompetent.
Your reason for not contributing to the pay cut is simply because you didn't contribute to the economic quagmire.
I am telling you that you don't contribute, you don't go fetch water.
Okay.
And come and pour into a leaking bucket.
Is that what you're doing?
But the bucket is leaking. The bucket is leaking. I would not go fetch water and walk long distance just to come and pour the water into a leaking bucket. I will not do that. I have to be assured that the holes in the bucket have been sealed.
Right.
And that if I'm putting water in, then I'm helping to fill the bucket.
I see.
And I will not be putting water into a bucket that I know that I see holes all around it. No. When they come to tell you that you presented a budget in November of 2021 for the 2022 fiscal year and told us that your expenditure was about 147 billion, and that the deficit in that expenditure is about 7.5.
Right.
Now you've told us that you've cut it by 30%, 20% in somewhere January 2022 that you announced, and a further 10%. And you have even suggested that wages and the rest will be, some of your appointees are going to contribute some wages. You are going to reduce fuel allocation, but you still are telling us that your deficit is still 7.5%.
Right.
Why should we believe you? Is it not the government that is just playing with figures? And you think that I should come and go and add to when I have constituents to take care of? I would rather use, if I have any income additional.
But this pay cut is meant to generate revenue for the state in order to
the
develop the country, of which your constituents will benefit.
It's not going to generate any revenue. It's not going to generate any revenue. That pay cut is not going to. How much is it going to even contribute from all those persons that they are talking about?
Right.
They know what they must do. If they don't know, they should just, the Minister of Finance and his so-called economic management team should just go pick our manifesto for the 2020 elections and go for some weekend and just read it from the beginning to the end. They will find all the solutions that they need in there.
Right.
So when I hear them ask that, suggest solutions, I said, the solutions are before you. Our manifesto is not hidden somewhere and locked. It is out there.
I see.
The solutions are found in there. The solutions are found in things that we did, that you came in 2017 and found that huge space that you thought, oh, it was so good. These people were so, and then you just started borrowing and borrowing and borrowing and wasting the resources until it dawned on you. Yeah, you see, it's like a child who unfortunately loses the parents who were doing so well, and so people knew them. So you know what happened normally when you lose such a person? Everybody will come, they will donate, they will bring all kinds of things. So life becomes so easier for him. You think that's how it's going to continue. So you waste all that. 2 years, 3 years later, after the death of your dad, nothing is coming again. The friends are no more coming. Now it dawned on you that you have to do all the things that have to be done in order to be able to survive. That's what this government has done. They have wasted all the opportunity, all the revenues, all the resources that came their way. You inherited 3 oil fields. If your predecessor administration had only 1 oil field.
I see.
Despite all those challenges, manage the single spine salary structure. Today, what are the lecturers telling us? Recently, the lecturers went on strike. What did they say? They said they preferred being taken to the 2013 position.
Right.
That was better for them than what has been offered them under this government. So they are worsening the status of virtually every other person. And people are struggling. You increase things hugely in cities and you come and reduce it in pesos. Who does that and think that you have done something? What type of government is this?
Now, government came to Parliament with e-levy, right, in order to show up the revenue of this country, to make sure that we embark on massive development and all of that. The minority in Parliament vehemently kicked against the introduction of an e-levy. It is still hanging anyway, and you are resolute. You are keen on that. You are going to make sure that the e-levy doesn't go through. Government says, okay, fine. We still need an urgent, measures to be put in place to make sure that we rescue the economy. They've actually come out with packages. You have kicked against that one too. What exactly do you want from government?
Well, if they listen to even some of their people who must be listened to, they will realize that e-levy is not even the way to go.
I see. Who are those people?
It's not only the NDC members that are speaking. Even the MPP members are speaking. At least if I haven't heard at all, I've heard the former chairman of the Finance Committee of Parliament, the former MP for the constituency in Koforidua in
New Drabin
South. Speaking speaking about this so-called e-levy and government refusal to take the right decisions that will show up the economy. Of course, he suggested, but they will not listen to him. I'm sure they will describe him that he wants to even join NDC.
Going to the IMF.
NDC. They are venerable Kwame Pianim, who everybody knows that when you mention Kwame Pianim's name in this country,
right,
everybody associates him with someone who understands the economy. He has spoken. They will not listen. He says he is not even getting access to the finance minister.
Right.
If an MPP government and somebody like Kwame Pini is struggling to reach the finance minister, then it should tell you the intentions of such a government.
Okay.
This is not an NDC person. This is not a known MPP. This is a known MPP person. And everybody understands that at least he has some good understanding of the economy. They will not listen. They will not listen to Professor Kosibochi. They will not listen to proposals and recommendations coming from NDC. Both the young and the experienced ones all talking. They will not listen. Then you rush to Parliament and bring e-levy in the form that you've brought it. You are virtually just going to collapse the economy. Look, young persons.
What's wrong with the introduction of e-levy?
Everything is wrong about e-levy.
What is wrong with it?
And we have given numerous reasons for that. And if your time will allow, we'll go through
you can go ahead.
One by one.
Right.
You see, according to government, if you look at the memorandum that attached the bill when they brought it, that revenues that they usually collect, that is VAT and the rest, seems not to increase at the rate at which mobile transaction, Momo and the rest is increasing.
Right.
So because of that, they want to go into what the mistake they make is that they don't realize that if transaction so much went on as transaction, it doesn't mean that that's the same amount of money that is available as Momo. If at this moment I have 1,000 cedi and I send 500 to you, send another 500 to maybe your cameraman, and you decide that's still the 1,000, but I've sent 500 out. You decide to also send maybe 300 of the 500 I sent to you to maybe your wife somewhere. Your cameraman decides to send maybe 400 to the mom in the village. They would have been counting that, oh, I sent 1,000. When you send the 300, it becomes 1,300. The cameraman sends 400, it becomes 1,700. But it is just 1,000 cedi.
Right.
It is just 1,000 cedi that left my end, went to you. So they want to tax me 900 of that 1,000 cedi, 1.5. You send the 300, they want to tax the 200 of the 300 I use. Meanwhile, I've already been taxed on the 900. So the 200 of your 300 that they are taxing, that's double.
Right.
His 400 that he sends out, they will be taxing 300 of it. That is another, that 300 have already been taxed even from my end. And this is income that I'm sending anyway. You are going to do that thinking that it is different money. It's not different money. So at the end of the day, you are reducing the purchasing capacity of those who patronize the Momo systems. 2, we all know that in terms of dealing with mobile money operations, it is the less privileged, those down there. And this, the vice president abused even earlier. And I'm surprised that the same persons are sitting together and allowing us chairman of the economic management team, and they are bringing this as a proposal. That they know. Those who have, how many of them do Momo transactions? They don't. They don't. If they have to pay anything, maybe they will pay through a check.
Okay.
They will do some huge transfers and transactions here and there. It is the less, those down there, who are doing all these kind of. That's why we have proposed that the best way to generate revenue is even to look at property rates. Because when you are taking property rate, that one, I have to first have the property for you to now come and tax me on the property that I have. But if you look at the mobile money, the way you want to operate it, even the poor who will be doing minimal transaction, just sending money around, just sending something little to your poor mom at home, you are being taxed. And we think that that is absolutely wrong. You can't be taxing income when the person has already paid income tax on the income that the person has earned.
Right.
I am sending a little to support my mother or my kid in school, then I have to be taxed again on that. That is absolutely wrong. And so the e-levy in the form that they are packaging it cannot help and will not help.
So those are your reasons for rejecting it.
We don't think that we are going to help them to instill pain
on the ordinary
further pain on the ordinary,
right.
on the ordinary person. There are many other ways that they could raise revenue.
What are those other ways you think that this government could generate revenue?
I have just mentioned to you about issue of property rates.
Okay.
That they themselves admit that not enough persons are paying. Put systems in place to make sure that you get what you have to get from that area. And that one, you would not be cheating anybody. Because if I don't own this phone, you cannot come and tax me on it.
Very well.
Because you will be taxing me based on the value that you have placed on what it is that I have.
Right.
But the e-levy, in the way it is, that is not the case. That is not the case. And we think that it is absolutely wrong. And it's going to destroy a lot. I went to the village. And I was engaging some women who trade and others who have just gone to the hospital. When it says they don't know the difference between government that is failing them and we the MPs. Things that you should have done to make sure that our health insurance and the rest is working well, you have failed to make it work. And when we come to hospital, we are asked to pay for all manner of drugs. And when our kids want to send us money to pay for those drugs, you are taxing them, and we too, when we are paying with the Momo, you want to tax us for helping to deal with a situation that you should have resolved. I shook my head. I took time and explained to them. I went to the market. The women who go to buy fish from Abotuasi and Dambai and the rest, they say, you people, you have failed to secure us. And because of that, we have been forced to now go and buy phones and then load our money on the phone so that when we get to the market, we can buy with that. If we are going to do transactions through Momo to pay for goods and services, so that as we move on the road, even if there is an armed robbery attack, our funds are saved on our phones.
Right.
You want to come and take money from us. It shocked me that these people are even thinking that way, but our own government that we pay them to think, are not thinking the way these ordinary persons down there are thinking.
I see.
We clearly are opposed to e-levy in the form that it is.
Assuming that your reasons for opposing or rejecting e-levy are valid, what about the current packages, measures government is putting in place to make sure that we rescue ourselves from the situation we are in currently?
What package is there?
Okay, let me read some of those packages out.
That fuel which affects everything. You increase it in huge cities and you reduce it by 15 pesos. Is that the package that will save the situation? Is that not? Are you not going to pay more for transport?
Government says
is it not going to? Are you not going? Is it not going to make increased cost of food? Because the one who is going to transport the yam from the rural area to Accra here for you is spending more. So automatically you would have to pay more for food. Your kinky will shrink. So many other things will be affected. So how are you managing the economy? In what way are you managing it? You say you are going to reduce fuel, reduce from what to what? What is the reduction from what to what? What were you giving and what are you going to
government says
give them now?
There will be a 50% cut in fuel coupon allocation for all political appointees and heads of government institutions.
What I'm saying is that in the first place, if you look at the number of appointees that they already have, it's a drain on the economy.
Right.
And I agree that many of them should not even have been there. Sometimes when the president submit his staffers, presidential staffers, I ask why they have established one district, one factories there. The number of persons that they present there, I don't know what it is that they are doing. So even if you cut by 50%, there's still so much waste that you have to look and cut numbers before even you talk about cutting their fuel allocation.
In your estimation, what should be the number of people that should be working at the presidency? Asking
them to contribute some percentage of their income to do A, B, C, or D. So I think that the numbers must be reduced drastically. Look, we had one minister for transport and one deputy.
Right.
They were responsible for aviation. They were responsible for rail. They were responsible for the road transport and then water transport. We saw the developments on our transport phase. The expansion of the Tema Harbour, the expansion of Takoradi Harbour, the Kotoka International Airport Terminal 3, the Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the Kumasi Airport, the Ho Airport, the Tamale Airport, the Wa one we saw, the rail projects that today we have a whole ministry responsible for rail that they go around inspecting, all commence under one minister, one deputy.
Right.
You have a government that came in and said they were in a hurry. So they created aviation ministry out of transport ministry, created rail ministry out of transport ministry, appointed ministers and numerous deputies. At the end of the day, we found that our domestic airline has collapsed. They haven't added any new airport or any further expansion. The only thing I have seen is the private lounge that was built for private purposes. So clearly, it tells you that there's no prudence when it comes to this government. And there are things that could have been done. Why? Were we not in this country when President Mahama appointed a communication minister with added responsibility for information? This government have decided to separate the two. And what we see is that the communication minister did not only go to name one of the facilities that was built under President John Dramani Mahama after her, but then has even added her picture. That's all she has added to the ICT center that was built, the hub that was built around the Kwame Nkrumah Circle area there. That's what when we had one minister for communication who has added responsibility for information, we had such a facility. They've separated you. You have not added anything. The only thing you have been able to do is to go and name one of the buildings after yourself, Osla Usu Wall or Hall or something. That's what they have done, because there is nothing for them to do. So clearly, this government is not being prudent in terms of managing our resources. And I still believe that they can still cut further down the number of ministers, the appointees that they have, before even talk about reducing pay by 30%. Just reducing pay by 30% alone is not enough. And invest in important and relevant areas. Today, everybody gets up. Even I was reading a story today that is attributed to the chief editor of Cocoa Board.
Right.
We should expect fertilizer shortage because of Ukraine. Is why. Before last year, we had problems with fertilizer. Was there Ukraine? So now they found a convenient reason to put on everything, every failure. Russia's invasion of Ukraine. So that's the reason for everything. Clearly, these guys should know that we are wiser than this.
Why are we trying to brush, that reason off?
Because
in a way, it's likely to affect our economy too.
Before that, we were in this mess already. Before that. Why? The last time a program was organized at University of Ghana where Dr. Kwesiboche spoke, and the World Bank country director was also there. He made it very clear that before COVID, we were already in distress. We had messed our economy up before COVID. Even COVID gave us some more relief, some more funds came in without conditions and the rest, from the World Bank, from IMF, from the EU, and many other institutions. You went into the sinking fund, took money, you went into many other funds that your predecessor administration has generated. You went in there and depleted all those funds in the name of COVID. Now you come back and tell us stories.
Well, I would want to read out some of the measures to you and see if these measures are not prudent enough to generate some reasonable revenue for the country. First one is the government plans to cut discretionary spending by an additional 10%. The Ministry of Finance is meeting with ministries, departments, and agencies to review spending plans.
When they say discretionary spending, do you know what they mean? The only discretionary spending that they have there will be the infrastructure development that we all need for. That's what they are talking about. Because you cannot reduce people's pay. And you cannot decide that you will not pay them. You cannot decide that you will not service interest or pay loans that you have taken when they are due. So the discretionary that they are talking about is either what you have to go and buy paper and then the rest to work in the office, or such infrastructure development like maybe building schools, hospital, or roads. So people will be paid to go to offices and they will not work because they are not going to buy goods and services. Budget has been reduced, or infrastructure development such as roads that we need to construct to link farming areas to the urban areas will not be done, or the hospitals will not be done. Anyway, that's why I said there's confusion in this government.
Right.
The president is promising that he will finish Agenda 111. The finance minister, as you have just read, is announcing that they are going to cut down heavily on discretionary expenditure, and that includes investment in infrastructure, which we have control over. The other ones you don't have control over. You owe people, you have to pay interest. If you don't pay, you will further be downgraded. You have employed people, you have to pay their salaries at the end of the month. You can't say that you will not pay their salaries. So you are left with only goods and services and your capex, your investment in your capital investment, like roads, like schools, like hospitals. So that is what we are going to see a further reduction. Or goods and services. People are employed. You go to the assembly, they will not be given the necessary goods paper and the rest to do their work. So they will go there and go and sing hallelujah, they close, and then they go back. How will the country be productive in this sense? So that is why I'm asking, how can this solve the problems that confront us?
What about the suspension of the purchase of imported vehicles for 2022 to reduce total vehicle purchases?
So the minister should have been telling us that we have planned to import maybe 500 vehicles, and we are suspending that. You don't tell us anything that you are going to import.
On the average, how many vehicles?
Well, I don't even know. By now they have imported them already. I believe that by now they have imported them already. So what are you cutting? From what to what? We don't know.
Suspension of all foreign travels except pre-approved statutory travels or critical travels. This is a very prudent one.
What's the meaning of that? What's the meaning of that?
They are suspending all foreign travels.
And who checks that?
I see. It looks as if you are kicking against almost everything.
I'm not kicking against. I'm only telling you that, first and foremost, what's the meaning of that? Who checks? Holes. Who checks? Well, there are holes there. I'm not the one punching holes. I'm only pointing the holes to you. I'm not holding a puncher to punch any hole. I'm only pointing the holes to you.
What about the intention by government to conclude measures to eliminate ghost workers from
should we be in this
government payroll?
You see, this is a government that sometimes is so funny, and I don't know how we got them onto ourselves. Your previous administration was even building hospital infrastructure and the rest without COVID. It took COVID for this government to realize that they needed to continue with hospital projects started by the previous administration and even initiate new ones. Today, it has taken this mess to confront them, the reality to dawn on them that you can no longer, the space that was created by the previous administration that you used to go to the bond market and you were just collecting and collecting, is no more there. For you to realize that, oh, now they are ghosts, that we must go and work on the ghost. It is good they have realized that they are ghosts and they must work on the ghosts that they have put in there. But again, how are they going to do it? How quickly will they do it to make sure that at least
they said by the end of 2022 that's going to be done?
Well, we wait to see.
No, is it not the case that you have resolved to frustrate government business to make sure that this government is frustrated?
Am I the one who recruits people or who endorse before they are paid? Is it not the government that appointed all those persons? Is it not the government that have appointed their ministers, their chief directors, and all the things that they have to do? Are we the people who are... Is it the NDC that is recruiting people? Is it the NDC that is controlling the payroll? And therefore, we are putting the ghost there.
That's not just about it. It's about...
I'm saying that, so...
It's about the minority
how are we
almost everything to say about everything government brings.
Well, if there is something to be said, it must be said. The fact that you have spoken doesn't mean that I should just go and sleep and not say the truth from what
so you can't for once reason with government on their policies, on their measures.
The finance minister comes to tell me, as you have read, that we are going to cut discretionary expenditure.
Yes.
By what percentage? He said about, I hear you mention about 50%. Let's say if it's not even 50%, that heavily. The next moment I hear the president, I am going to finish my agenda 111 before I leave office. Who am I to believe? So when these two leaders make this statement, then I'll just go and sit there and fold my hands and keep quiet. I have to expose it and let me know the one who is speaking the truth. And if I'm doing so, I am not frustrating government business. I'm only trying to ask them to advertise their mind to the inconsistencies that we are seeing.
Well, I talked about the frustration of government business by the minority in parliament because of some few things that happened. For instance,
what has the minority that passed all the appointees of His Excellency the President,
but decided to kick against
the minority that approved
that will help government embark on
the minority,
its developmental
there are
projects.
so many revenue mobilization things that
the minority that kicked against a suggestion that you should accept pay cut by 30% to help government, generate some revenue.
We don't use pay cut to generate revenue. You fix pay because that is what, when things have gotten worse on the average person, you don't go cutting pay. That is the time you should be working to even increase pay of workers.
At what point did former President John Dramani Mahama ask his ministers for pay cut?
Well, that is why I am not opposed to he asking his appointees who are already taking so much to have something reduced. And I'm saying that is not even enough. They should even reduce the numbers. That one I'm not opposed to it. But you can't come and ask an MP who has not had anything. You don't give the MP fuel coupon. The fuel coupon they are talking about, that if the MP was even getting maybe quarter of the current fuel that will be allotted to his appointees, that MP will say hallelujah. The MP is not giving any fuel. The MP is not taking any additional allowance from anywhere. They are not on any boards, maybe except the MPP ones. So if they like, they can take the MPs who are on boards off. Take all those other benefits off. Maybe it will save some more money again. Or tell them that if you are coming to serve on this board, we will not pay you any other allowance because you are already an MP. That one, it can help. Such proposal, if they bring them up, fine. But to say that you are coming to cut an MP salary who is not taking anything, he's not like a minister who is enjoying accommodation free, water free. You have watchmen available to you, you have washers available to you, you have various vehicle that is giving you for free, that is fuel for free, that is service for free. The MP doesn't get all these things. I pay for my fuel, I service my car, I pay for my car because it's a loan and it's deducted every month. They deduct from me. The appointees of government enjoy all these things for free. So if you say you are having all those things and you are taking 30% of it, I say it is not enough. Some of the positions don't even need to be there in the first place. You can run with a lesser number of ministers. If
government fails to deliver and the situation persists, is that not going to affect your constituents also?
That is why I want government to deliver. That's why I want government to do the right thing. Not that, listen, you come to my constituency, my people are suffering, tilling the soil, sowing every time, harvesting, and making sure that they help government to generate income.
Right.
Some are cocoa farmers, some are doing timber, some are doing spices like ginger and what have you. Some are into various places. So they are doing all this. The least they expect from government is for government to think and act in a way that they would also at least find something out of their labor. You don't work so much, plant, and when it is exported and then we get dollars, you are paid in cedis, and government, which is supposed to manage the economy so well so that your cedi don't depreciate heavily against the dollar, fails to do so, and so by the time you are paid as a cocoa farmer, your money that is paid you cannot buy anything. So that is affecting them, and that is why I'm talking.
A colleague of yours came here the other time, said that the failure of this government is his happiness. Is that a situation?
Well, I am not happy that the government is failing. I wish the government succeeded like the way our government succeeded, and they came and met a good space and decided to waste it. I would have wished that they have succeeded, so that when we come, we will have some platform to have. Unfortunately, they are digging us into an abyss, and so we have had to come to be able to take us quickly out of there. Otherwise, all of us will be buried in there. And that is the reason why many of us are praying quickly for 2024 to come. So we go through an election and have a more responsible government in place, so that quickly we will find a way of getting ourselves out of the abyss and see how we can all begin to breathe. At least at this moment, we are suffocating, we are all being pushed under the water, and it's difficult for many who do not have gadgets to be able to breathe underwater to survive. We need to have a situation where we can keep heads above water so all of us can be able to breathe as normal human beings and not in a situation that we are being turned into some aquatic vertebrates.
Are your positions, your stance, not too entrenched?
Tell me which one is entrenched.
Right. I mean, for instance, kicking against the the controversial e-levy, which has become an albatross around our neck.
You call it controversial yourself. Why should you accept something that you call controversial? In your life, were you born to be accepting things that are controversial? You yourself call it controversial, and you think that I should go and support what is controversial.
No, you understand the angle at me?
No, how can I understand the angle? You yourself call it controversial.
If you had accepted it, I don't think that it would have been, I mean, the word controversial would have been used. You have created that situation around it.
We have created it, or that is what it is, but then we have really pointed at it. Sometimes I'm surprised. You have gone to eat your something. You have messed yourself up, and you say we should not point at the mess that you have created. And that if you have messed the environment up, we should not point, because it is our pointing that is making people see that you have messed. You think that the mess you are creating, people are not seeing or smelling it. Why should we keep quiet and then maybe they will think that it's everybody who is causing it? We have to let people know who is causing it.
Though you mentioned it earlier, I think our time is almost up. You mentioned it earlier. People are of the view that you are quick to point out and punch holes in government's policies without preferring alternative solutions.
Well, I am not, it's not my duty to give alternatives.
Not your duty to give alternatives?
It's not my duty to give alternatives, because in the first place, you give alternatives when they tell you they don't want to listen. So why should you even spend your time giving alternatives in the first place? But at least I've recommended a whole book for them, that the solutions are in our manifesto. They should go pick, read it. If there's anything they don't understand, they can contact President John Dramani Mahama. If he decides to help, as he has always said, maybe he will help them, because of course he doesn't want them to continue further digging down and creating a more deeper hole for it to be filled up later. But the solutions are all there. We have suggested many, but they are not prepared to listen. And sometimes they feel like, you see, when you are sick of malaria, as I always tell people, the symptoms choose headache, fever, and the rest. You can simply take paracetamol, which is a simple medication, and the headache may go. But that is not treating the parasites that is in the system. You have to take antisonate amodiaquine, which is bitter, which many persons don't want. So they prefer to go for paracetamol all the time to reduce the headache, to reduce the body pain. But that will lead to more serious situation when the parasites concentrate and develop in either your liver or other cases. So a simple ailment that could have been treated by antisonate amodiaquine of a 442 now become a serious case that you have to go and be looking for surgeons now to operate on your organs. That is what this government has led us into. We could have simply just taken antisonate amodiaquine to treat the malaria situation. Now they have allowed it to develop and has affected the organs. And that is where we find ourselves.
Do you support calls for government to go to IMF?
But if you don't go to IMF, where else would you go to be able to save the situation? Is it the reduction in pesos in fuel that will save the situation, or the so-called pay cuts of fuel that will save the situation? You see, the only reason they don't want to go to IMF is that when they go there, they will be badly exposed.
I see.
Since they have been hiding from persons, the books, we have to open up the books. The IMF is not coming to tell you anything different. The IMF is only coming to tell you what you must do. When I listened to the IEA recommendation, I said, but this is exactly what IMF will do. The only difference is that IMF will add some money, credit support for you, in order to give you some breathing space. So if you are under the water, they will find a way of raising your feet up so your head will be above water. But once your head is above water, they will be telling you what you must do so your head don't go down again. So that's exactly what the IEA has said, except that in the situation we find ourselves now, we need credit to be able to keep afloat. Without that, You cannot, because you cannot go to the bond market and borrow. If you go there, the interest rate will push you back immediately under the water again. So for me, that is where they must go. It's like a sick person, I repeat again, that you know what is wrong with you. Maybe you know you have COVID.
Right.
That if you go to a hospital, you will be tested, and because when they test and you are positive, they will detain you. You don't want to be detained. Right. So because of that, you are refusing to go to the hospital, and you are walking around spreading the virus to affect more persons. That is the situation of this government. So IMF is not the bad. Otherwise, why are we members? If it is a bad thing, why are we still members?
We've been to IMF on several occasions, but I mean, the situation is
yes, if you are a member of an association, you continue to go, but you must do the right things consistently. Right. What the previous administration
allow me to wrap up properly.
If they had continued, that would have been the situation. But let me greet my people and wish them well. And we pray that we will meet. I'll be joining the Kute Odumase people for the Bayangute Festival on the 16th. And then new biker on the 18th also April. Right. I will join them for the festival. Thank you for the opportunity.
They should respect us. We'll be there. Thank you so much for coming, Honorable. We are so grateful for your time. Honorable Kofi Adams is a member of Parliament for Boem constituency. He's a very good brother and a friend, but just that it's been a while since he's been voted for to represent the people of the Boem constituency. This is all time will allow us on the program. Make a time with us, same time tomorrow. My name is Justice Appiah, and the show has been Hot News. Goodbye.
Truly African.